Welcome back, college football fans, to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. This is my reaction and recap to Iowa's 35-7 loss yesterday against number 3 Ohio State in Columbus inside the Horseshoe. Woo! And I'm telling you, I don't want to use the word survived because Ohio State, the victory was never in doubt for the hosting Buckeyes over the Hawkeyes. But just what a wild and crazy week 6 that we witnessed yesterday. I mean, the entire college football world was turned upside down. Big ups and congrats, highlighted by Vanderbilt, who had never in their program's history defeated a number 1 ranked team. But that whole issue was put to bed yesterday when they did knock off and defeat Alabama. So congrats to Vanderbilt. And that also, there was some craziness within the Big Ten Conference as well, to where USC was defeated by Minnesota up in the Twin Cities, and out in the Pacific Northwest in a rematch of last year's national championship game, Washington defeated the visiting number 10 ranked Michigan Wolverines. So a lot of things happened yesterday, and I think a lot of the Buckeye fans who are listening to this are probably smiling ear to ear, not just on top of, hey, defeating Iowa, but hearing and being reminded that, yes, Michigan did lose also. So my initial thoughts on this, but before that, with the loss, Iowa drops to 3-2 overall, 1-1 in Big Ten Conference play, while Ohio State remains perfect. They improved to 5-0, 2-0 in Big Ten Conference play. My initial thoughts on this game, it really proved two things, and they were absolutely evident, that Ohio State is really good. They can defeat you with so many different options and facets to beat you, whether it's their perimeter players out in wide receiver, if it is their running game in the dynamic duo they have in the backfield, or from the quarterback, but especially just how physical and talented they are along the lines of scrimmage, both on the O-line and D-line. So we definitely learned that. And for Iowa, well, we still learned that they still cannot muster any sort of vertical passing attack down the field. Welcome back. I'm your usual host, Blair Parks. I want to thank you all for being with me here. Happy Sunday morning to you and yours. Hope you've had an excellent weekend to this point. And I want to thank all you college football fans, Hawkeye fans, Buckeye fans alike. You are always, and all of you are welcomed here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Shout out to all of you who tuned in to my previous episode, my preview of this matchup between Iowa and number 3 Ohio State. You made it a smashing success, so thank you for all that you do. Please remember, like, share, comment. I always encourage, request, ask for, and want your comments. I promise I will get back to you. And please subscribe. Tell your friends and your family, your fellow fanatics to check me out here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, because I want to find more college football fans just like you. So this game, I mean, just to recap, kind of played out the way that I believed it was going to play out. I did tell you a few days ago on that preview episode that I thought the final score would be Ohio State 34, Iowa 17. So I was kind of in the ballpark there with the score, but the first half pretty much played out exactly to how I predicted it would. I did say I thought Ohio State would have a double-digit lead, maybe 10-0, or maybe by 10 points, 13. Ended up being 7-0 at halftime, so I was absolutely close with that. But it really came to fruition what I said. I believed that in the first half, each team would try to feel each other out a little bit, kind of poke and prod to see where's the strengths, where's the weaknesses of each. And I think that's really what both of the opposing OCs did to one another. Tim Lester for Iowa and Chip Kelly for Ohio State. And I remember yesterday, at halftime, I did put a post or a comment to my preview episode. I said, hey, at 7-0 at halftime, it's really playing out the way that I believed it to be, because I thought this was going to be overall a sort of competitive game. But I did say I just have that feeling, my spidey senses were up, that Ohio State was this close to really exploding in the second half on offense and really in all phases of the game. And that's what absolutely happened. Definitely put Iowa to bed, and that was all she wrote. So Ohio State continues to be our daddy. They continue to absolutely dominate this series. It is not a rivalry. It's so one-sided. I can't claim it to be. I think now it's 49-15 and maybe a couple ties in favor of the Bucknuts in the series of these two teams. Really have just been our daddy. They own us. We have zero success against them, and that's just how it is. Some other initial thoughts I have. This really showed too, and Iowa fans, I'm hearing a lot of chatter on all of the fan sites, so the social medias about how bad Iowa played. I get it. If you're frustrated, you're disappointed, you're even angry, I get it. I'm not. I mean, I'm disappointed because I'm a fan, but it really played out the way that I thought it was going to play out. I mean, this game was never in doubt. Yeah, I thought and hoped it would be a little more competitive than this, but you just see the discrepancy of the talent levels between Ohio State and Iowa. It's really something you can't even measure. It's unmeasurable. I mean, just the discrepancy in what we're seeing, the personnel on the field, what they can and can't do. It's almost like varsity and JV, or maybe even Ohio State basically is a NFL caliber team to Iowa that is basically a JV to varsity level or college football team. It's not even close. It's not fair, all right? And I kind of felt like at halftime, maybe Ohio State was kind of just toying with Iowa a little bit, kind of dangling that carrot in front of them, like, oh yeah, we're gonna give you a little bit of faith and belief at halftime. You're only down a single score. Maybe that is true, but I don't know. I'm not too frustrated or angry. I'm not disappointed, but it's okay. I mean, I knew Ohio State was going to win comfortably, and I take solace in that. So the stars that I saw from both teams, I always like to give a good and a bad. I got to start off with the Ohio State wide receivers, which they are wide receiver U. Buckeye fans who are watching, welcome. You are. I know other schools might claim to be wide receiver U, but you've got that stamp. You've got that distinction in my mind anyway. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, get involved. I mean, absolutely, that was the biggest mismatch. And I said that going into this game. Iowa's secondary, which has not been very Iowa-like compared to the last 5 years that we've gotten really spoiled with our defense in Iowa City, that they were going to have their hands full with yet another crop of just next-level dudes, wide receivers for Ohio State, and that's exactly what happened. Emeka Ejigba had 3 touchdown grabs. The stud wide receiver freshman on Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith, I mean, just that one-handed touchdown grab, I mean, that's just, it's a highlight. He's a walking highlight film, and apparently that is a weekly occurrence for this young man on the field. So 4 touchdown receptions among the Ohio State wide receivers yesterday. Iowa just had no chance. I mean, just no chance because of the talent discrepancy again, and how good Ohio State is, how good they have been doing this, and where Iowa is. It's just never really had a chance. In the back half, they just didn't. So shout out to all of Ohio State wide receivers. Their running game, absolutely that dynamic duo, what Crash and Smash, I think is what CBS named, or kind of nicknamed Quinshon Judkins and TreVeyon Henderson. Quinshon rushed for 78 yards. TreVeyon added 61 yards. I mean, just wore down the Iowa defensive line, that front. those linebackers of Iowa, who I think still is the best group of linebackers in the Big Ten, really just have their hands full all day trying to track those guys down. So, and that's really starts with the offensive line of Ohio State, which coming into this year, that really was a question mark with a lot of Ohio State fans that I had discussed with, or what I saw, or their issues, or hey, our worries are on the offensive line. I think that was also said during the Big Ten preseason bus tour. That offensive line absolutely dominated Iowa up front. And I'm going to get to that here in a little bit more. So the offensive line, the defensive line, I mean, I think they had Ohio State ended up tallying 4 sacks on the afternoon, 4 sacks. They had a bunch of QB hits. They accounted for 2 strip sacks of Cade McNamara, which then they turned into direct points deep within Iowa territory. So really all around, I mean, a great game for Ohio State. I mean, just they do what they do. So shout out really to the entire team. And really, I got to say this for Chip Kelly, because the broadcast team yesterday brought this up, and I think they really hit the nail right on the head, that he really is kind of like a juggling act. He's got to get these dudes of Ohio State who came back, who said no to the NFL when they brought in all of these guys via the transfer portal, this upper level talent that was on display. I need to make these guys happy, so I have to distribute the ball equally or evenly, because I got to keep good team unity and spirit. So it is a tough job. So hats off to Chip Kelly for being able to take care of this juggling act. Now, as far as the bad for Ohio State, I mean, maybe the 2 first half interceptions by quarterback Will Howard. I mean, other than that, there was nothing really that went wrong for Ohio State. I mean, maybe letting Iowa hang around in the first half, giving them a little bit of hope and faith, like I said, that some of us Hawkeye fans had going into the half. Maybe that was bad. I mean, I think it's always better to put a visiting team away that can potentially pose a threat, put them away and put them to bed early, have them start the bus up and get it over. So nothing really bad other than that. Now for Iowa, some good that I saw. I did like the running of Caleb Johnson. I mean, he ended up with 86 yards on 15 carries, 1 touchdown, but to be upfront and honest, the majority of those yards came in 2 big carries. One was 30-plus yards, one was a 20-plus yarder, but he at least continued to grind all day. I mean, it was tough sledding for the Iowa rushing attack. Overall, Iowa was able to manage 116 yards total rushing, the majority of those by Caleb Johnson, who came into the game the leading rusher in the FBS Power 4. But I mean, Ohio State really had the upper hand in a way, because they know that Iowa is inclined when it comes to throwing the ball down the field. So what are you going to do? You're going to stack the box. You're going to make Iowa have to throw to beat you, and that's no secret. The cat is totally out of the bag. So I do give it to Caleb Johnson for at least running hard the entire game. You could tell there was no get up in this Ohio native. It was a big game for him. I thought maybe they should have kept him in the game for the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter, at least try to get him over that 100-yard plateau. But I totally get it. You don't want your best offensive weapon to get hurt in a game that's really meaningless at that time, because it's completely out of hand. But I would have liked him to get a few more carries and try to eclipse 100 yards. So Caleb Johnson played really well for Iowa. Overall, the Iowa offensive line for rushing, their rush coverage, their rushing attack, their run blocking was not really that bad, but they found themselves once again completely outnumbered time and time again. They didn't have enough helmets to put on the opposing linemen of Ohio State. They just didn't. They grinded. They did the best they could, but just got wore out. And once Iowa became one-dimensional, being down as much as they were late in the game, where you pass when you have to, not necessarily when you want to, it was really game over. But there were some other things that were bad signs from a Hawkeye perspective. I'll get to that here in a little bit. Let's see, other than that, I mean, the good for Iowa, at least I could say the most difficult game of your season, the best team you're going to play, hands down until bowl season. It's out of the way early, so now we just have to gather yourselves mentally and physically. I don't think there were any major injuries for Iowa yesterday. It's just move on, put it in the rearview mirror, focus on what's ahead of you. So, and it was good seeing Brendan Sullivan in there too for actually some legit time between the 20s rather than just inside the opposing team's red zone, basically. Now the bad for Iowa, Cade McNamara and a lot of Hawkeye fans this morning, this is what they're saying. He should be benched. He should lose his starting position because it's obvious Iowa's offense still has a lot of catching up to do. They have a lot of improvement yet to do. Wait, but hit the brakes here. Even slam them on. This Iowa offense is so much better than the last 3 years, though. We have to remember that, Hawkeye fans. They are scoring points in most games, but obviously we ran into a completely different animal yesterday, okay? So this offense has improved. There's no doubt about that. There's just work left to do. And Cade McNamara, I don't know. I think maybe potentially a switch should be done because what Brendan Sullivan brings to the table is something Cade McNamara really can't. I like Cade. He seems like he is a good leader. He's passionate. He's motivated. He has that veteran experience. But it's just, Iowa cannot produce down the field. They cannot. There is no vertical pass game. I love their tight ends, how they utilized Luke Lachey and Addison Ostrenga, who I don't think had a grab yesterday, but Luke Lachey did have 5 receptions with his father up in the booth calling the game for Ohio State. What a great family dynamic that was yesterday on display for the Lachey family. And it's not just on Iowa's QBs, okay? And I've said this. The last 4 seasons where Iowa's offense has been offensive, the laughingstock of college football, the running joke, which we deserve to be, it wasn't really always on the quarterback or the OC, the play calling. If you watch Iowa's wide receivers, they continue to not be able to get any sort of separation. They cannot get open. They just don't. They continue to get manhandled. They just cannot help or bail out or assist their quarterback when they need to or when things break down. There is no separation from those Iowa wide receivers. So that also has to be pointed out before everybody wants to point the finger at Cade McNamara or at new OC there at Iowa, Tim Lester. The wide receivers are not doing anything to help. They're not. And that has to be fixed. That has to be remedied. All right? So I don't think Cade McNamara should be replaced next week as we move on. We welcome Washington into the friendly confines of Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City. But I do believe that Brendan Sullivan should start getting more reps with the first team. I'm sure right now Cade is getting the majority this week, and he has been. But maybe now that ratio should go to 60-40 Cade to Brendan Sullivan. And if Iowa does get out to a decent lead, or if they get down to Washington this week, or even if it's going well, they need to get Brendan Sullivan out there more during legit moments of a game instead of just mop time or in the red zone. He's got to get out there a little more frequently, all right? And I think a really good time to make an official change, if they need to, if over the next 2 weeks he is improving in practice, and if Cade McNamara continues to kind of stall out leading the Iowa offense, I think in 2 weeks when Iowa travels to East Lansing to take on Michigan State, a team that is in a complete rebuild. I love Michigan State, though. I mean, how could you not love Sparty? I love green, my favorite color. So no disrespect, but kind of a team that you feel pretty good playing against, even though it's on the road. I think that would be a good time to maybe give Brendan Sullivan his first official start. But you also need to let Caden McNamara know that, hey, even though you're not starting, we're going to lean on you. We need to rely on you, so be ready to go back in. I do think they need to get Sullivan in the game more frequently. And plus, he is so much more mobile, and we saw that. When he came in, he is able to create something when that offense does break down. I mean, late in the game, those 2 strip sacks, well, one was late in the game. One strip sack was halfway through the third quarter, deep in Iowa territory. The other one, the game was already in hand, but by then, the Ohio State defense was just teeing off. They knew Iowa was not going to run the ball, so that has to also be taken into advisement too. The Iowa O-line could have been better, definitely, with pass protection. But to this point, the Iowa O-line has been doing much better. They have looked more Iowa-like this year compared to the last 4 seasons. Yeah, actually 5 seasons that we've seen. But you do need to get Brendan Sullivan out there. I think he just adds a different spark with what his legs can do and his mobility. So why not give him a chance? But we'll see. I don't get paid to make those decisions. Also, where this game was really lost, I mean, I have to say this, Iowa had chances in that first half to at least have Ohio State maybe sweating just a little bit, putting some pressure on them. They really wasted some golden opportunities, all right? Those 2 turnovers, they got 0 points from that, big donut. But there were a couple times they could have gone into the half 7-3, 7-6, maybe 7-7, maybe even leading 10-7. At least then Ohio State knows, hey, this team has come to play. You've landed the first punch, but they've punched right back. But Iowa didn't do that. It still wouldn't have mattered, but, I mean, missing a field goal and then the shank punt by Reese Dakin, who other than that had a pretty good day punting the ball for Iowa, those are things that they could not do. And I mentioned that for Iowa to have at least been in position to maybe spring an upset late in the game, they had to do those things. They couldn't have any special team snafus or gaffes. They had to win the turnover battle, which they did in the first half, but ultimately they did not. They had to win the penalty battle, which each team was only penalized once. So a very clean game. Iowa continues to be the least penalized team in all of college football, which is great. They can hang their hat on that. But when they lost the turnover battle, those 2 special teams issues, missing a field goal, setting up Ohio State in great position off that shank punt, at that point you kind of knew. And especially once Ohio State scored their second touchdown early in the third quarter to go up 21-0, the game was over. Iowa's offense cannot come back when they're down by 3 full scores. They just can't. They're just not going to be able to do that. Not quite yet. All right? So, I mean, overall, I mean, like I said, I saw it coming. Oh, a great game for Ohio State. Iowa, you made it look better, I guess, via that late touchdown. But, I mean, where we go from here, Ohio State, they have that huge matchup this week up in Eugene, take on undefeated Oregon, who defeated Michigan State Friday night. That's going to be a top 5 matchup with everything that happened with number 4, 1, and 4 losing yesterday. We're going to have a top 5, maybe a top 4 matchup. Definitely going to be the game of the year in the Big Ten. I get it. The game between the team, that one team up north and the team down south, that still is the traditional game of the year in the Big Ten. But this week's game between Ohio State and Oregon is the biggest game of the year in our conference, without a doubt. While Iowa comes home to entertain Washington, the last year's national title runner-up, who's going to have a little bit probably swagger and confidence to them after their upset win yesterday against Michigan. So I expect two really good games next week from these teams. You'll have to tune in later this week as far as my official predictions, but everything is on the table and ahead for these two teams. I did predict both Ohio State and Oregon would make the college football playoff. I did say that they would meet up in the Big Ten title game. I still believe these are the two best teams in our conference, but I did preseason pick Ohio State to lose up in Eugene, but then to Ohio State to return the favor in the Big Ten title game. I did have Iowa defeating Washington. And I had Ohio State going 12-1 in the regular season with the Big Ten title win. I had Iowa going 9-3, which they still can do that. When you look at Iowa's schedule coming up, they're going to be favored probably in every game. I mean, can they still win out and go 10-2? I think they can. But I do believe this offense will cost them one more game and they'll stub their toe. I did pick them to lose to both Ohio State, which they have, and I did predict that they would lose out on the West Coast on a Friday night against UCLA in the Rose Bowl, a short week, a Saturday game, and then a Friday night game. But UCLA just has not looked very impressive at all. So we'll see. So everything is still in front of both of these squads, and I expect really good seasons from them both, and I cannot wait to watch next week's matchup there in Eugene. I'm so excited, Buckeye fans and Oregon fans, to watch that game. So that's where we are. Ohio State, absolutely a legit playoff contender. Iowa, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm sorry. Maybe come late October, Iowa fans, we can see where we are, but right now they are not a playoff caliber team. I bleed black and gold like you do, but I'm just being honest. They're not. So we'll see. But that's it. I'm going to go ahead and hop off now. I got some things to do today. Exciting news. Hey, thank you for what you do. Like, share, comment, review, rate, share, subscribe, click that bell, get notifications. I'll be taking the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog on the road this week. My wife and I are getting out of town. We're heading to Savannah, Georgia. We always end up taking our vacation in the fall in October. It's our anniversary date is near, so that's what we do every year without the kids. Never been to Savannah. We've always wanted to go. I mean, I do have a list of things to do. If you've ever been to Savannah, please go ahead and just comment. Give me some suggestions of what some things that we could do, restaurants to check out, maybe breweries, wineries. I mean, we plan on going to, for example, to the Old Pink House, the Pirates Cafe, Tybee Island to get a little bit of beach time, even though we're not going to be going swimming. It's a little chilly out there, I think. So let me know, just hit me up. Let me know what are some suggestions to do in Savannah. So definitely, but I will be coming to you with my preview and picks episode. That'll be Thursday morning. I'm going to go and do that on site at the hotel, or maybe out and about among the Savannians. I guess that's what they'd be called, Savannians. So be looking for me later this week. Once again, thank you for all you do, your attention, your time, your support. Please subscribe, comment below. I can't wait to hear from you. Let me know what you thought about the game, my interpretation, my insight, my opinion. Let me know. Can't wait to hear from you. I'll talk with you soon. Enjoy the rest of your week at work, at school. Be safe, be responsible. And I'll talk to you later in the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Go Hawks.